the never-ending woes of British Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn. Yesterday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu joined the fray and reprimanded Corbyn after pictures emerged showing him at a 2014 wreath-laying ceremony for the Palestinian terrorists who killed Israeli athletes in the Munich Olympics. On Twitter, Netanyahu said that the laying of a wreath by Jeremy Corbyn on the graves of the terrorists who perpetrated the Munich massacre and his comparison of Israel to the Nazis deserves unequivocal condemnation from everyone left, right, and everything in between. Not one to pass up on a Twitter fight, Corbyn quickly responded, saying Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's claims about my actions and words are false. What deserves unequivocal condemnation is the killing of over 160 Palestinian protesters in Gaza by Israeli forces since March, including dozens of children. And here's what Corbyn said just a few hours ago, admitting he did indeed lay a wreath.
I laid one wreath along with many other people in memory, as I've said, of all those who died in the awful attack in 1985, which, as I keep repeating, and you seem not to understand, was condemned by the whole world.
And the British press is having a field day with this as well, as we can see the front pages of the Daily Mail and the Metro and the Daily Telegraph condemning him. Suddenly he says that he was at the ceremony, but he doesn't think, he used the word, he doesn't think I was involved in the ceremony. What do you make of this explanation?
Listen,
Mark?
I mean, he should have gotten himself out of this. He's a figure that should never have been the head of the Labour Party. He got elected as a fluke. The thought is that he could actually become Prime Minister of Great Britain is a very scary thought, not only for us, but the whole idea that someone like him could become Prime Minister of Britain is very, very scary to me.
Why?
Because his ideas are really quite out there. They're not tied to reality. His whole statement right now, if you looked at his statement right now, he's trying to talk his way out of a situation without being able to do it very convincingly, quite frankly. He really has no ability to do that. Look, the man really does seem to, I mean, the fact that he's anti-Israel is no question. The fact that he lies, there's no question either. So, you know, he's one of those cases where we yell anti-Semite, anti-Semite to anyone who disagrees with us. Now, I think it's okay to criticize Israel, but this one really is probably an anti-Semite.
What do you make of this never-ending story?
First of all, I'd just like to take issue with the word fluke in relation to Corbyn's being the head of the Labour Party. I think what we've seen all over the place, America for sure, like we were talking about the Democratic Party, is that the Labour Party in Britain has gone far, far to the left, and Corbyn is an expression of that. And today, it used to be that the right wing was the most anti-Semitic and most radical, but that's changed, and now you can
well, one
find
could argue that populism is rising on both sides of the map and on the right, particularly,
yes, but populism,
especially in Europe. I mean, it's not just the endemic.
I was speaking more specifically both about anti-Israel policies and about being anti-Semitic. Okay. I don't use the word anti-Semite lightly. I think it is wrong to accuse people who criticize Israel of anti-Semitism. But I think Corbyn is actually an anti-Semite, and not because of only laying a wreath on the terrorist's grave, but and many statements he's made. And he has also said he's been friends with Hamas and Hezbollah, and the guy is a terrorist supporter.
I think that Corbyn represents the new generation in Europe, or parts of the new generation in Europe, that is not looking at Israel in a different way than any other state. And they have their own standard to hold Israel and a standard to hold ending the conflict here. And he is not ready to continue to play the game and to say, hey, Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, when he sees that Israel is not acting like a democracy. And he is not, you know, going down and putting his head down when Netanyahu attack him, but he attacked back. And he is just a figure that represents a new mood in the young generations in Europe. They are not feel committed to Israel because of the Holocaust, and they are ready to attack Israel viciously about the occupation.
Okay, but I have one problem with that, though. I mean, you talk about like any other state. I haven't seen Corbyn going out against the Syrians. I haven't seen him going after the Iranians. I haven't seen him go against any of the other people who are committing massacres, real massacres in the Middle East. He's picked Israel as...
I'm sure that Corbyn has nothing good to say about Syria. Maybe we should ask him about it, and maybe he's talking about it, but it's not echoing. But when he's speaking about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, he's saying tough things, and we need to react.
I want to show you two polls that were done recently by YouGov, British polling agency. This one is about to be a better prime minister. Who is a better prime minister? Well, actually, okay, this is the first one about which party is should be voted in. If you're voting today, the Tories 39%, 35% for Labour. You can see the dates there, August 8th to 9th. So not too far, just a few percentage points behind. And the better Prime Minister, May or Corbyn, over these 2 years, July 2016, Theresa May kind of had a big lead, about 52% in July 2016, but somewhere into the middle of 2017, actually Corbyn passed her at one point, and now they're pretty close together, 36 and 31 in January, and now it's 36 and 22 in August 2018. What I'm trying to say basically is that this man does have a chance to be the Prime Minister, next Prime Minister of England.
Which is why you can't call it a fluke. And yes, it's worrisome, because if that's the case, then what you're saying is that in that case, Britain as a whole is moving to the far left, if that's
or maybe
the case.
Israel is moving to the far right, and Britain looks at Israel going out of
Yariv, Israel is not the only issue in Britain. Britain is a whole country that Israel is a small issue.
I'm sure that the people that were being asked in the polls are voting for these parties not just because of Israel. But when you look about moving to the left and what their attitude toward Israel, maybe Israel is shifted to the right.
I think it's neither. Listen, what's going on in Britain has to do with Brexit. Has to do with neither of those leaders are taking a strong stand when it comes to Brexit. They're both they're both like lemmings going off the cliff regarding to Brexit right now. Neither Corbyn nor May seem to be taking any sort of action. I think that's what's defining the opinion polls. But yes, it's a real problem that someone like that as Prime Minister could be Prime Minister.
And there is an attempt by everyone in the Israeli side or the Jewish community to try to show that he is anti-Semite and supportive terror.
No, but wait, Yariv, the Jewish community is genuinely worried. You can't tell them that they shouldn't be worried, right?
Let me just add something. The British Jews, who all voted for Corbyn, because just the way the American Jews all voted for Obama, began to get worried, and they started to withdraw their money.
20 seconds.
I agree that Corbyn can do other things, and I don't like the pictures, of course, that are now
from
published.
Tunisia.
But still, eventually, to try to use the anti-Semite alibi and to say, "Hey, anti-Semite, this is why he's so crazy and he's out of his mind." This is not going to be helpful, and it's not the real thing. We know that there is a real problem here.
That's all.